The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
You know, it's almost like you have no choice now. You go into the store and they're all like 4K Ultra.
Yeah,
blah,
16K.
blah.
The minute you buy one, it's like obsolete before you even get it out the door. Because
when I buy something, I have a death grip on that technology until it breaks.
Me too.
My TV, well, that 55-inch was the 3D TV.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you, we had the glasses with we still do, with the little, they got the little watch batteries in them, and kids would come over, my friends would come over, and it was like the greatest thing. I can't tell you how many Blu-rays I own that are 3D.
No, I still have an iPod, like with a
So
click
do
wheel
I. So do
that
I.
works. So, and I still use it. I never let things go. I'm totally like my father in that way. My dad still has a transistor radio that he built when he was 15 years old. And it
That's
works.
cool.
So
when the world goes to hell, that's the only thing you'd be able to have that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are people listening to us, or are we just
I hope so.
chatting around here? I hope so as well. I like it. Well, you got the Great Pumpkin on there on your shirt today? There you
Great
go.
Pumpkin believer.
Believer.
Yes, I am a Great Pumpkin believer.
So you would sit with Linus in the pumpkin patch?
I definitely would. And, we were watching Great Pumpkin on Friday, and my son is like, the Great Pumpkin didn't come because it's Sally who doesn't believe. She's not convinced, right?
Yeah. And she's ruined the entire year for Linus.
It's true. It's not because there's no Great Pumpkin.
It's always Sally's fault.
And you always have to wonder where the parents are. Like, it takes the big sister to go out at 4 a.m. and find her lost brother.
Because he's only supposed to be like 6 or something,
yeah.
right? Like, he's a little kid. I mean, I know we were lackadaisical in the 60s and the 70s, but maybe not that.
Yeah, the parents are going to bed. Oh, it's midnight. He's not home yet. He's still
Where is he?
trick-or-treating.
Yeah, exactly.
Give him some time.
He's fine. Just leave the door unlocked.
Yeah.
He's got his blanket. He's good to go. So what are we talking about this week?
We had a sandworm double feature.
Dune. Speaking of watching high def TV on a VHS quality, did you watch it at home or did we watch it in the theater?
I watched it at home.
Yes, I watched it at home.
I saw it in the theater.
And
So I think we might have different experiences here.
maybe.
We'll get into it.
And as Christina said, it's a sandworm double feature. Beetlejuice is our second feature.
Beetlejuice. Don't
today.
say it a third time. Don't bring him into this. I get so giddy whenever I see those damn sandworms, by the way. They're just stop motion goodness.
What happens if you say Beetlejuice twice and Candyman 3 times? Does anything special
I
happen?
think the world blows up. I'm pretty sure that the reality just folds in on itself. And
Well, I think at that point, then you have to say Bloody Mary twice.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then,
now you're just wow. Now you're opening a whole can.
just
of
stand
sandworms.
there and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Would we rather have Candyman or Beetlejuice on the loose?
I don't know. Beetlejuice will, I don't know how partial he is, in terms of gender, but he'll steal your children apparently and try to marry them off. So I think you know where you stand with Candyman.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Jeff
Yeah.
is
Yeah, I don't know.
does
Jeff
not
is like,
agree
no.
with that.
Jeff,
no.
I
Jeff-
am not on board the Candyman.
Jeff is like, I do not want a hook in my bowels. Thank you.
Yeah. Or bees or any. And yeah. No.
It would be fast though.
It is
Yeah, it would be
true.
fast.
It would be over. It would be over in a heartbeat.
You wouldn't have a new son-in-law
Beetlejuice would
with
just be
Candyman.
obnoxious. Yeah, he would just follow you around. Come on, man. Come on, give me a bite. All right, so that's cool. So that's what we're doing. So let's talk a little news, and then we'll get into it.
That
All right,
works.
we're gonna start our friend Ana de Armas, who we just saw in The Last Bond. Apparently, she's in talks to do a spinoff from John Wick called Ballerina. Now, I don't know if this is a character that she played in the John Wick movies, or this is just something
has to do with
new.
the mythology behind John Wick.
Okay. Well, I guess Len Wiseman, who is he is going to be directing this for Lionsgate, but I mean, we saw that, I think we agree that she was like the highlight of No Time to Die.
Yes.
So you put her in a John Wick type role where she gets to kick some ass, maybe in a better fitting fighting outfit.
Yeah.
And not high heels and dinner dress.
Hey, it's very disarming, that outfit.
Honestly, though, that is one of the things I like about John Wick, is because all the women who are also assassins dress very practically. They don't, they wear suits or like, bodysuits that aren't meant to be sexy but practical type of thing. They wear clothes that are meant for moving around and killing people.
Not a cocktail dress, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they could have put her in a very elegant jumpsuit. She still would have been black tie appropriate.
That is true. That is true. I like to see her kick some ass. Ballerina. I know Jim and I spoke about this before we actually hit record, but Eternals, which I think we're going to cover in 2 weeks, is not even out yet. And yet it now has the lowest rated Marvel film on IMDb.
I don't care.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason, which apparently it is a coordinated review bombing because of the inclusion of LGBTQ representation in the film.
And so now I really don't care.
Right. People are spending time doing this, trying to somehow cut this down because they're mad. Are they just? They're angry. I don't know,
man. People have nothing to do with their time, I guess. It's ridiculous.
Well, some movies do live and breathe on word of mouth. Marvel movies, I think it doesn't matter what people say. This is going to open huge. So I think it's futile, whatever they're doing.
It's true.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting that again, this is somehow a concerted effort to knock this film down because of the inclusion of these characters. I don't know.
It's the 21st century. People need to get a hold of themselves. That's what I think.
Yeah. Anyways, stop it. Knock it off, people.
And also, I don't really know how much the average person cares about reviews in a general sense. Like a Rotten Tomatoes score or whatever. Like, I don't go out and consult Rotten Tomatoes before I go to a movie.
You see a trailer, like, I want to see that. It's not going to sway you if some guy from Paducah doesn't like it.
But do you think people listen to us talk about movies and be like, oh, well, Jim didn't like this movie and I like everything Jim likes, so maybe I'm not going to go see it.
I would love to think that, but I really doubt it.
I hope not.
And you shouldn't. And you shouldn't.
Right.
Also, I hope that a conversation about a movie in which we're just giving our opinions is hopefully more nuanced than, someone throwing down stars or tomatoes or whatever on Rotten Tomatoes and then like writing a 1-sentence thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, back in the day, you'd watch Siskel and Ebert. I don't think it didn't matter at the end of the day what they, if they loved it or hated it, it didn't stop me from wanting to go see something.
I think you were sort of there for the conversation, which I hope that people are here for our conversation.
Yes. Oh, I loved it when Siskel and Ebert fought, when they differed on opinion.
It was great. So anyways, that's pretty much all the news I have, but I guess we need to at least address this Alec Baldwin situation since he is in our follow-up feature today. At this point, everyone knows what I'm talking about, which is that somebody on the set was killed. Director of photography, this 42-year-old woman, Helena Hutchins.
Yes.
And the film's director was actually injured as well, Joel Sosa. And unfortunately, it was Alec Baldwin who had this prop revolver in his hand, and it fired, and it had a live round in it.
So here's the thing. So anything that an actor uses on set is called a prop.
Yes.
But it's not a fake revolver. And it's like saying that it's a prop revolver is slightly misleading. Like, also, it's important to note that anything that can be fired out of a gun is a live round, including a blank.
Yes.
So when people think a live round was fired out of this, they shouldn't think someone necessarily that someone put a bullet in it. If it's a blank, it's considered a live round. But also, according to testimony that I've seen up to this point, the assistant director who handed the gun to Alec Baldwin told him it was a cold gun, which meant it had no live rounds in it, meaning no live rounds. It means it has no blanks and it has no bullets, has no gunpowder, no nothing, right? So he was not told that there was anything in the gun. But the thing is, at this point, there's almost no reason to have weapons with live rounds in them on sets.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, which is why, you know, in this day and age where we can fake a toy gun that doesn't, I mean, it doesn't, none of this stuff should actually be able to be fired.
So, I mean, if you can do it in a computer now, why would you potentially put people at risk? I mean, when Brandon Lee died, and we're all of that generation where it was so shocking and so devastating for this thing to happen. And because of his death, there was all these changes in the ways that weapons were handled on set and all these safety procedures that were put in place. And there certainly does seem to be some implication that that corners were being cut on the set of Rust. Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you've had one person die ever on a set, then, you know, after that, you should, if you can avoid having a gun that fires live rounds, then you should do that. You know, you shouldn't put anyone at risk.
You know, it makes me sick to my stomach because people are turning this into a social media meme, and it's a joke that this guy, Alec Baldwin, is anti-gun. And it's almost like, you know, people are pointing out that this is what he gets for not respecting a gun. And it's like, somebody died.
Yeah.
This guy has to live with this, you know, and it's like pointing out, well, why was he even pointing it at somebody? You should never point at somebody. It's like, how many movies have you watched where the bad guy or the good guy takes a gun, points it at camera, and fires it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were rehearsing the scene.
And he was rehearsing.
And they were, and the cinematographer was there because they're checking the light, right? She's behind the camera.
Yeah.
It was exactly what you, like you said, what you see in so many films. And I think the best thing that can happen at this point is that people stop using guns that can carry live rounds on set.
Yeah.
There's just no reason to do it anymore.
Sad. It's sad and it's tragic. So let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about Dune.
We think this is fun?
I don't know. I guess
wait. Before we move on, I do have a bit of.
Oh, and I'm sorry. You did say that you had.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
I read something to the effect that they are making a sequel to the 1985 George A. Romero zombie film Day of the Dead with the original cast members.
What?
That survived the end of that
movie.
All
dead at this point? They're all
and
zombies.
This movie is being called Night of the Living Dead Part 2, just to confuse matters.
And who's going to direct it?
I forget I didn't write down his name, but the three surviving members of the cast that at the end of Day of the Dead fly off in the helicopter to a tropical island off the coast of Florida are returning to their roles. And as the same characters. So, and it's already filmed and it's due to be released soon. There's no release date and it doesn't say if it's going to be theatrical or streaming. I would imagine it's streaming. But yeah, all you Romero fans, there is a sequel coming out very shortly to Day of the Dead.
And when was that movie released? That was
1985. Which in itself was a sequel of sorts to Dawn of the Dead.
So you're talking 30 plus years later and almost 40.
Yeah. And
zombies are still on the planet. We haven't
still
figured
on the
out
planet.
a way to get rid of these things?
I guess not. Well, humanity was pretty much already gone in Day of the Dead. So, and it would be interesting to see what happens with them if they've stayed on the island and how zombies are playing into whatever they're doing. I don't know, but it's going to be out soon.
Jim's going to make me watch this.
He's definitely going to make you watch this. Written and directed by Marcus Slabine and was shot pretty much in secret this year.
Huh.
And it is called an unofficial sequel. So this apparently is not condoned by the Romero estate.
But if you're getting all the actors back, that's interesting.
I mean, it does lend a certain amount of credence to the proceedings, right?
Yeah.
So
So, I smell a pairing, Day of the Dead and this new film whenever it comes out.
see there, Jeff, not only are you gonna have to watch this, you have to watch Day of the Dead as well.
Day of the Dead. You guys are just dragging me down.
Yeah.
That's all right. All for the team, right? At least we're no more Candyman. Are they making a sequel to Candyman?
Oh, there's gonna be something.
Oh, there will. There will be more Candyman.
I think I'm sick that week. Sorry.
I wish I was sick this week.
Oh, really? You
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
like this at all?
So here, I want to put my
Okay.
cards on the table about
Okay,
this before
all right.
we start.
Dune,
Let's go.
everybody.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Dune.
Dune.
Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
I happen to love his film Arrival, by the way.
Yep.
So this is not some slam against him. This is really about, a lot of ways is about the source material. So you guys know I'm a big reader, right? So I have read in my lifetime, I'm going to say between 4,000 and 5,000 books. I read on average 100 books a year. I was an early reader. I've been reading since I was like 6 years old. Some people, some years I read more, some years I read less, but I would say on average, I've read about that many books in my lifetime. And in my lifetime, I can count on two hands how many books I have not finished. And Dune is one of them.
Dune is a big book.
It's not the size of the book. It's that it's boring.
It's
extremely
dense. I've never been able to get through it.
Boring for me. So I was already a little prejudiced going into this because I had no interest in the source material whatsoever. And again, this is not because I have some unfamiliarity with hero's journey stories or some unfamiliarity with science fiction. I've read a lot of both of those things. I just fundamentally find this story boring. And this, for me, was one of the most humorless, just unbelievably boring films I ever saw. I never seen so many people staring pensively into the middle distance. My son actually got up and then he said, I sacrificed you to this movie. Like I was some kind of a hostage.
You were a hostage. You were forced to watch it. Well, I will say I have absolutely no connection to the source material either. Mm-hmm. But I had a completely different take. I saw this in the movie theater and I was absolutely enamored with it. Mm-hmm. I don't know my Arrakis from my Canopus. I don't know anything about this world. I've never been able to get through the books. I know I've seen the 84 movie, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. I love this. I had a great time. I was giddy from beginning to end. Yeah, no, I was, the sound editing, the sound design in this just elevated it. To me, every frame was like a little piece of art. I love this.
Well, I read the book. I read the book Dune when I was probably 12. Now, I was coming off like a deep Tolkien phase after The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and I was looking for something similar. And I picked up Dune and I read it and I liked it. It wasn't as good to me as The Lord of the Rings, but I liked it. And I attempted the second book and I couldn't make it through the second book. Flash forward a couple of years later, the David Lynch version comes out and that killed all my interest in Dune from that point on. And I more saw it because Sting was in it. And then his flying underpants also killed any interest in Dune that I had from that point on. Fast forward to this. I did enjoy it as a spectacle and as entertainment. I was a little bit tired of seeing Timothée Chalamet's hair being so lovingly photographed. It actually takes away from his acting ability to me. I think that he is photographed in such a way where it's like, look at this beautiful human being. And he was
very lovely to look
and
at.
he's posing in every single frame that he's on when he knows that the camera is on him. So that got a little tiresome. But I was engaged and I did enjoy it. And I've forgotten, honestly, most of the story because I haven't read the book since I was 12. But it came back and I know they cut a lot of corners here in terms of plot. I might be just the kind of person that they were shooting for, but I liked it and I am looking forward to the sequel.
Apparently I was the same target market.
I don't know. I couldn't even, the dialogue was ridiculous. Half of it is like stupid aphorisms and the other half is like exposition about the politics. Nobody talks like a normal person, especially Jessica, who spends the whole movie talking like this. I don't think she spoke at a full volume for the duration of the film. I had the volume on 41. I was like, what the hell is this?
There was some
Hey,
weird.
just
Even
put
in the
the
theater,
subtitles on.
There was some weird mixing.
I
because-
will bang this drum until I'm dead. Put the subtitles on. It
I
will
can't do that in
benefit
the
you.
theater. You can't do that in the theater. There were some subtitles in some of the alien languages, but that was it.
What is Jason Momoa's name in this movie? Duncan,
Idaho, which is just like really.
By the way, he has to die because he's the only person in this movie who ever smiles or seems like he's ever had fun in his life.
And not only does he die, he dies once. He's impaled, removes the sword from his heart. It keeps fighting.
Jason Momoa.
This guy is Jason period from Friday the 13th. You can't kill him. He is unkillable. Is Duncan, Idaho. So anybody that is familiar with Dune knows the story of Arrakis, which is the desert planet. Maybe Star Wars took a few pages from its book with Tatooine. Who knows? But
oh yeah, more than a few pages.
So Arrakis is covered in desert, and not only is it sand covered, but it's also spice covered. And spice is the currency, the power. It's like gasoline in the Road Warrior Mad Max movies. That's if you have the spice, you have the power. So the Emperor is trying to mine Arrakis for all it's worth in terms of spice, and it's using different planets and different races to do so. And at the beginning of Dune, there's a voiceover. The Harkonnens, which is a harsh, brutal race, have control of Arrakis, and they have control of the spice, and they're mining it for the Emperor. And the Emperor calls them off suddenly. Instead of the Harkonnens, he wants the Atreides to now go in and mine Arrakis for spice. So there's a lot of political angst about this. And it turns out that the Emperor is a bit threatened by the Atreides because they're getting too powerful. So he's trying to set up. Yeah, he's trying to set up a war between them and the Harkonnens, and he's really setting them up by sending them to Arrakis. The Harkonnens eventually attack and decimates the Atreides. And then we get into the story of Paul and his mother, played by Rebecca Ferguson, who Christina mentioned a little bit earlier. Her name is Lady Jessica. And Paul and Lady Jessica are part of this like kind of a space nun organization that are witches that have magical powers. And Paul has inherited some of these powers. So he is kind of seen by some as being the chosen one. And this is very breaking down the plot to its barest bones. Yeah. By the end of the movie, his family has been decimated by the Harkonnens, and he and his mother are forced to flee into the desert, and they are taken in by the Fremen, who are the desert dwellers who have kind of moved over whenever an invading force comes in to mine the spice. But they are the original inhabitants of the planet Arrakis. They take them in after some hesitation. And you can tell that the sequel is building up to the Fremen having a battle against the Harkonnens, who have now taken back over Arrakis. So there you have it, in a nutshell, is the plot.
And space worms.
And space worms.
And there's worms.
Then there's worms as well.
Yes. So you can not only you get like high off the spice, but it also is integral for space travel.
And also, do you know what it is?
What, the spice?
Know what spice is?
It's probably worm doo-doo.
It is.
So the worms are essential for the economy of Arrakis. And the worms themselves, you don't see a lot of them. They were the focal point of the novel. If you ever looked at a cover, like the cover I had of the novel had a sandworm on it. And you get the sense that there's no, like the sand is just ever moving. It's like the sands of an hourglass because they're able to glide through this like an ocean, the desert sands of Arrakis. And it's funny that somebody as insignificant and small as a human or a freeman or a human walking on the sands can attract a huge sandworm. Right. So they can't even walk single file. They have to walk this way and that. So it doesn't give themselves away as a living being walking through the desert. The Harkonnens here, and this is where Sting came into the David Lynch version. He was a Harkonnen. He was a bad guy in the original version. And I believe his part is being played by Dave Bautista. in this one, minus the flying underpants. We don't get Dave Bautista in flying underpants here, but we do get Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron, and he is an impressive character.
Yes, very much so.
This
is like a what, 700-pound fat suit? It's massive.
I would hope so. He didn't have to go method.
He went method. He just ate a lot.
And the Harkonnens are pretty harsh, and they are frightening.
They look like Cenobites without pins.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And we also get Polka Dot Man in this movie. Did you notice him, Jeff?
I missed him. No, I didn't realize that.
He's one of the Harkonnens. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Zendaya shows up.
Zendaya, someone said online that she looks like she's in a perfume commercial. She just
everybody looks like they're in a perfume commercial in this.
She just wanders around and looks at the desert, and her hair blows, and
the blue eyes.
This is what I mean. Like, everybody's like staring into the middle distance. Everyone's frowning all the time. Like, everyone's got a furrowed brow. Like, nobody's happy.
Giant worm. Listen, sand gets everywhere. I would not be happy. Anakin even says that.
And what about that scene where Paul has to put his hand in the box? Flash Gordon? Did anybody else get any Flash Gordon flashbacks in there? Put your hand in the stump.
Were you not even impressed with the soundtrack though?
I love the soundtrack.
I thought the soundtrack and
the Hans Zimmer.
The design was just. I thought it was fantastic.
It was so. I mean, I was trying really hard. I was like, I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna really give it a chance. And then I was like, I don't even see why people think this is pretty. It's all gray and tan. Like I told you yesterday.
you did.
All of the buildings are just gray stone.
I whatever. I was enamored with this. I was in the theater by myself, and I was transported. I was very happy.
I was wishing I could be transported away.
Yeah.
In retrospect, No Time to Die seems pretty good.
No.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Wow.
It took Dune for you to appreciate No Time to Die?
Yes, it did.
I was like, wow. Revisit your buckets.
I was like, wow, this is even worse than No Time to Die.
Wow.
This was like my level of hatred was almost on the same plane as Fifth Element.
Now, I was having a debate with my wife during this. Timothy Chalamet's head, is it huge or is it his hair? Because I was saying it's his head. And my wife was like, no, it's his hair. Like, no, it's his head. Like, I can picture him like putting his shirts on, like ripping them up the back so he doesn't stretch out the material in the collar to pull it over his head.
That he's going to be the new Willy Wonka. And I'm just like, how is this going to play?
It's so funny. There was a review in the New Yorker of Dune, and the reviewer said that Paul doesn't need trial by combat. He needs 6 lamb chops and a side of spinach.
A little protein.
There is no way he could have taken that Freeman at the end when he fought him in the knife fight. Like, that guy just needs to blow on him and he will fall over.
He's in his 20s. He does look quite a bit younger. I think
he would make a good Peter Parker.
I think actually, I mean, people keep talking about how attractive he is. I think he's going to be attractive in like 20 years when he has a little life on it. Like
when he grows into his head, when the rest of his body catches up with his head.
I just think, I mean, yes, it's fine for the character because the character's supposed to be like 15 or 16, but he just looks very young to me.
He looks like he's about 13. He doesn't look. What I found was funny is Ferguson's only 12 years older than him.
Yeah, these things are so weird, aren't they? That's like Mel Gibson and Glenn Close in Hamlet, where she played his mom and she's only like 13 years older than him, or maybe even less than that.
Less than that, jeez. Well, you're not going to be happy because the sequel's been greenlit. So
I'm definitely going to be. I'm going to be somewhere when we have to watch that.
You've got 2 years to think up an excuse to back out of Dune Part 2. Talking about Tatooine, the book of Dune, the idea of Dune is really kind of found. You can see it in other movies, in other media, like throughout the years. Even I was thinking of Waterworld and the recycled water in those suits.
Oh yeah, in the suits.
Yeah. So So all these ideas may seem familiar to you because they've taken it from the source material from Dune itself.
It's funny because I saw an online review and somebody said it sort of felt like a Star Wars ripoff. And I'm like, do you not realize this book came out like well before Star Wars was even a thought in Lucas's? I think it's very obvious that Lucas was inspired by this world. I think at one point he was even using the Force. That ventriloquism trick there with his voice.
Yeah, that was. I did also really like the scene where the Duke has the poison tooth in his mouth and he has been stripped naked. So he's got nothing to hide. Right. And the Harkonnens have him there and they're sitting at his table.
The cleverly placed table.
Right, of course. Yes. So they're sitting at his table. And as the Baron comes up to hear what he's saying, he cracks the tooth and kills everybody in the room, except, of course, for the Baron, who floats up to the top of the ceiling to avoid the poison. But I thought that was I really like that.
How does he float? He got like helium farts or something?
Well, they have, he's not the only one that can float. Like they have.
They were floating down.
Anti-gravity suits or what have you.
It's a lot of anti-gravity.
But there you go. So even though it's, the novel itself is very intricate and confusing at times, this, I think, went out of its way to not be. And giving you that plot synopsis in 30 seconds or whatever I did is pretty much all you need to know about Dune. Yeah. We didn't talk about James Brolin, who is the master at arms, I think, of the Atreides family. So I think he is a bit more of a successful character than Jason Momoa's. And Jason Momoa is like stepping right in out of Aquaman or something. He is making no attempt to fit in with this world.
No, he does kind of.
It's just like he's him. Yeah. He just plays himself in this.
You're right. He's the only one that really seems to be like enjoying himself. He's the only one who made a joke.
That's what I'm saying. This is the most joyless movie I've ever seen.
I still liked it.
When he goes, what would you mean the joke where he feels his little arm and says, "Oh, are you putting on muscle?" It's like, you think I am? No.
The really funny thing about it too is that we watched this after we had gone to see The French Dispatch, and
also starring Chalamet.
Yes, and his character twice in the film says he's shy about his new muscles, and then you see him in this, and you're like, "What new muscle?"
He's like Sideshow Bob going on here. That hair.
Wow, I know.
So there you go. Wow, we're that's it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like squash it, but I was just like, I hate this, and I can work up no enthusiasm for it. And I was just really glad that we did not go to the theater and waste $40 plus popcorn money on this.
Well, Entertainment Weekly does not agree with that viewpoint. The quote that I wrote down begs to be seen big or not at all. So maybe you are simpatico with half that statement, actually.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Wow. I highly recommend seeing it in the theater if you have any interest in this.
I agree.
But I think to a certain extent, too, like, there's nothing, like Jim talks about Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And I've read so many science fiction and fantasy books that have kind of a similar, there's nothing new here. Even when he wrote this book, there was nothing new here.
Sure.
Because the Chosen One, the complexities of a kingdom, the political betrayal, these stories go all the way back to King Arthur and before. So there's literally nothing new here except, he made it all about sand. And
I don't think there's sandworms in King Arthur.
There are dragons, though.
There are dragons. There are dragons.
Yeah, but you can't fuel your ship with dragon poop. Or can you?
I'm just saying, like, for me, there was this, just to not finish a book, for me, is a big deal. And I could not get through this. So
I think in terms of the movie, it is very self-aware of its epic beginnings in nature. So it really wants to be an epic. But to be fair, I think visually it does that admirably. And I really, like Jeff was saying, I love the score. The Hans Zimmer score is really awesome. And he actually turned down Tenet because he was such a fan of the book that he passed on Tenet and he did Dune instead. So again, I enjoyed it. And being not as hardcore as a sci-fi fan as some of those on this podcast, I really did like it. I don't think you need to be completely engrossed in sci-fi to appreciate it for what it is. And if we're ready, and I think we are, I think we're passing through Dune very quickly to get to Beetlejuice. I would give it 3.5 buckets.
I will go 4.
You'll go 4. Okay.
I will go 4. I absolutely, like I said, for the 2.5 hours in the theater, I was transfixed. I enjoyed it.
How low can we go here?
What did you give No Time to Die? You have already committed to giving this less buckets than No Time to Die.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure that I think I gave No Time to Die too.
Okay, I think you're right.
I am sure. I was actually just thinking to myself, I think, I know I mentioned this when we did Never Too Young to Die. I thought my previous low was Condor Man, but now that I'm contemplating it, I think I gave The Fifth Element 0. And my hostility for this movie is really on the level of the hostility I feel for The Fifth Element. So I'm going to say 0. I wish this movie was never made.
Ouch.
Yeah. I hated this.
So would you think that you would actually enjoy the David Lynch version more than this?
I remember seeing the David Lynch version, but for the same reason, because Sting was in it, but I don't really remember much about it, and I never watched it again. I don't remember thinking much of it at the time. I mean, I don't think I would rewatch it. So you know, I'm not going to go back and like kind of reassess that feeling as an adult, but I'm pretty sure I watched it just because Sting was in it. I watched a lot of movies because Sting was in them.
Stormy Monday.
Oh yeah, I watched them all. I actually have a VHS copy of Brimstone and Treacle. So yeah, I really am just not a fan. And again, like I feel everyone in my household we move in the same vibe. We would all much rather watch Beetlejuice and talk about Beetlejuice.
I will say my son hated this, but my daughter loved it. So for the world building, go see it in the theater.
Admit freely, I was prejudiced beforehand, and nothing I saw convinced me not to be prejudiced. So
okay, let's go to the concession stand and come back for Beetlejuice.
Carnation's Cocoa Supreme, the delicious hot chocolate drink with the light, delicate flavor you like. Wouldn't a good hot cup taste good right now? Ask for a cup of whipped hot chocolate at our snack bar. Yours is waiting for you right now.
All right, we're back. And we are talking about the 1988 Tim Burton classic, Beetlejuice, starring Michael Keaton. Batman himself.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And
he wouldn't be Batman for another year.
So many actors I love in this film. Gina Davis, Catherine O'Hara.
Jeffrey Jones, the MVP of the 80s. This guy is in every 80s movie, literally.
Yes, so many like just great performers with great performances, even down to the little cameos like Dick Cavett. So
Robert
Goulet. Yeah.
We mentioned Winona Ryder.
Yes, I think she's about 16 when she made this.
Yeah, I think she's like 17. She looks like she's about 12.
Right, and because I think her character is supposed to be much younger because Barbara keeps calling her that little girl.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think she's meant to be a teenager.
Did Mermaids come out before or after this?
That had to have been
after. I think after.
Okay.
I think.
That might have been 89.
Yeah. I think I saw Mermaids when I want to say, well, it might have been the same year because I think I was 16. I remember seeing it in the theater.
Would you consider singing into a wooden spoon in a kitchen a trope at this point?
90. Mermaids was 90.
Oh yeah, sorry. I guess I can't do math. That would be when I would be 16 because I was born in 1974. I'm a writer, okay?
Carry the one.
All right, let's climb out of this rabbit hole that we've dug ourselves. Beetlejuice, 1988. So memories about the original release. Have we all seen this theatrically when it was released?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. This was right on the heels of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So Tim Burton could do no wrong. Danny Elfman at his best here.
Yeah, really incredibly, again, sort of the opposite of Dune. The music is actually full of joy. You know, it's just really energetic and delightful. It really makes you sort of see what's happening on screen in a different light.
Yeah, no, it is its own character. It's funny because toward the end too, you start to feel some of the Nightmare Before Christmas vibes.
Oh,
in
definitely,
some
definitely.
of his music here. Oh, Jack Skellington cameo on his hat.
Yes.
The visuals here, especially when they step off the porch of the house and they're in the desert and you see the sandworms.
Yeah.
My son watching this for the first time, he's like, that is direct from Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm like, it should be the other way around.
Well, Tim Burton had written the poem Nightmare Before Christmas in 1982. So like obviously well before this. And he had done a bunch of drawings and sketches related to that. So obviously these are his designs making their way into the film.
It definitely has his DNA all through this. I haven't seen this in many years, and that's a fault of mine, not the movie. But I think because there was no sequel. There was that animated show that ran for a few seasons. But I think kind of pop culture and cinema have moved past Beetlejuice. So it's somewhat forgotten in the oeuvre of Tim Burton. I think just because it wasn't a franchise and a sequel never materialized, I haven't seen it in many years. Maybe
it's on Broadway right now.
That's the reason. It is on Broadway, but you don't hear much about it, is what I'm trying to say. So, and my son had never seen it before this, and it took, and Jeff and I were speaking about this before we actually recorded today. We took a vacation earlier this year. We went to Universal. We saw the horror movie makeup show. And if any of you have ever seen that, it's just maybe a half an hour show, and it's kind of a stage show, and it's also informational about different horror movie makeup effects. And to warm up the audience before the show started, an actor came out dressed as Beetlejuice, and he was in character, and he was interacting with the audience. And so my son says, "Who is this supposed to be?" And I'm like, oh, you've never seen Beetlejuice. You've never heard of Beetlejuice because it's just not out there in the lexicon for youngsters these days. So we watched it and he loved it. He loved it. Of course, being an acolyte of Nightmare Before Christmas, how could you not? How could you not?
See, I own this and I've owned it for many, many years. My son actually saw this when he was pretty young. This is something I watch, I don't know, every 6 or 8 months or so. I feel the need to watch it. And this is also a film that we quote every single time we there's just so many. I was going to say there's so many occasions when there's a quote from this movie that's appropriate, but certainly when we order Chinese food, every single time we order Chinese food, one of us says, "I can't believe we're eating Cantonese. Have they no Szechuan up here?"
I will say this, once you see this, you really will have no need to ever hear Deo again, because I think Beetlejuice covers it and it's done. If you don't, I think that they've really killed that for Harry Belafonte, unfortunately. It now belongs to this movie.
That is true. When Glenn Shaddix, the guy who plays Otho, passed away, they played that at his funeral.
They did.
Oh.
Yeah. Otho.
Yeah. So many just great character actors too, like playing, very broad roles, because Michael Keaton's part's actually very small.
It's like 14 minutes,
which is incredible, because you wait a long time until he appears. Yeah. And he's only teased at that. Like you said, it's only maybe 2 or 3 sequences where he's really engaged in the story.
But every character you see on screen is memorable. Even the receptionist and the bureaucracy, the Miss Argentina, who's very contemptuous of Adam and Barbara. And she's like, "If I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have had my little accident."
Yes, because they say that suicides become civil servants in the afterlife.
Yeah, it's funny because also mentions that in the movie, and he's right, because you see that everyone who works there took their own life. Yeah,
I could be quibbling there, but let's talk about Otho. And he's reading the book, the handbook for the recently deceased. Now, Winona Ryder's character should be the only one that can see the ghosts, because she herself is strange and unusual, as she points out. So it should only be Lydia, but Otho finds the book and picks it up. Everybody seemingly can see this book. So that was a little, like, what are the rules here? Now, who can see what, and why can they handle this book if it's just a ghost book?
Quibble.
That's, yeah.
A mere quibble.
how every dead person except for Barbara and Adam looks really ghoulish?
Well, if they drowned, wouldn't they just be soaking wet the whole time?
Yeah, and that was what I was wondering about. I was like, why, like, some people have different colored skin, like
Yeah.
everybody, even if they look relatively normal, like the guy cleaning the hallway, still has like dark circles under their eyes.
Yeah.
But Barbara and Adam don't. They just
Well, they're
look
the-
like regular
Maybe-
people.
Regular.
Even though I quibbled about the book, I was allowing for this because I was thinking to myself, because I thought the same thing, like, why is she blue and they aren't? Maybe they didn't find her body until, she was a bit decomposed. And maybe it was the same with the girl that was, well, maybe I don't think
She's
that they really
pink.
could have. She was pink. And you would think that they would find her immediately if she was a magician's assistant. She wouldn't be hiding
Right.
anywhere. So, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Barbara and Adam were found, right after they died. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they had plenty of time to get out of that car. By the way, how they drowned.
Well, it's funny because their windows are open.
Right.
You know that because Adam looks out the window at the
Dog.
So like a lot of times when people drown in cars, it's because the windows aren't open and they can't, get out of the vehicle. It's a little weird. Like, why didn't they just swim out of
Right. Yeah.
the
No.
open windows?
Yeah.
But it's really irrelevant because it's just supposed to be about, it's just a MacGuffin for them to die.
Yeah.
So that they can, so that you can have this story. I mean, ultimately, it's actually a found family story,
Yeah. Because you do pick up on it. They were on vacation. They were going to stay home, and they mentioned the fact that they don't have kids, or they were unable to have kids, and
Mhm,
so yeah, they basically adopt Lydia.
mhm.
Nice little family dynamic.
And
Yes.
Jane from the beginning is trying to sell that house out from
She's
under
the
them.
real villain in this
She
whole
is.
thing, by the way.
She's so terrible. She claims to have decorated the whole house when you know that is not true. I know that the Dietzes don't think much of the decoration. I mean, Charles does because he seems to like that vibe. Obviously, Delia does not. But
Oh, look,
she-
an indoor outhouse. She's got so many great lines.
But Jane claims to have decorated the whole house, and you know that Barbara and Adam did that themselves because it's like their hobby.
Right. Yeah.
Is to, they're staying home for vacation and they're gonna wallpaper a room. That's what their big excitement is, And I think that's why Delia's attitude toward the house is so particularly offensive, because they clearly do take such pride in the house that
Yeah.
they've worked on together, and Delia is just going to come in here and like knock down walls,
destroy it.
and
Yeah.
put all
Well,
kinds of stuff in it.
Yeah. Well, you got to have, to make the plot work, you got to have somebody like that come in. You got to have somebody that you hate as well as the Maitlands would hate, enough to try to scare them out so they
Yeah.
can.
Can you imagine? Because Angelica Houston was supposed to play this character, and she got sick, and so she had to back out.
She also would have been good just
She
in a
would have been
different
good.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Catherine O'Hara.
Oh,
just
Catherine
kills it.
O'Hara really has that sensibility that works for Tim Burton. Obviously, she's Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas, but I think that there's something about her that works perfectly in this Tim Burton setting. She should be in every single Tim Burton movie. She really should.
Make that
I mean,
happen.
she should be in all the movies because I just think she's great.
Yeah.
I just think everything she does is brilliant. And I think I think now, because of Schitt's Creek, she's sort of getting the critical acclaim that she should have been getting throughout her career. It's like people have finally woken up and realized that she's
Yeah.
just an amazing comedian. And if you're not familiar with her work in the various Christopher Guest mockumentaries, she's unbelievable in those.
Best in Show. Right
Mhm.
now, if you
Yeah.
have not seen Best in Show, go out and watch that, please. Now, again, the connective tissue between our two features are the sandworms. So whenever the Maitlands try to leave their house, they can't leave the house because then they're in some like limbo in the desert, which is populated by striped sandworms in this particular film. But there is also one other carry through that I was thinking, that the connective tissue between the two movies. We have Timothy Chalamet's gorgeous mane that flows in the desert winds. And you also have Alec Baldwin's lush chest hair, which is peeking out from he cannot contain this this bush of chest hair from any
Oh,
t-shirt that
man.
he wears. He needs really a better fitting shirt to really go up to his neck.
I didn't notice that. You must have been looking really hard.
I'm looking at his 5 o'clock shadow. If he let his beard grow, it's just like an unending. He's like Bigfoot.
Man.
He's just Bigfoot.
Do you know this was the first DVD ever released by Netflix, 1998?
That's interesting.
That's
Well,
all I got.
I did read that there was supposed to be a sequel, and that this sequel was in various stages of development for almost 20 years.
It sounds like a bad. I'm glad it didn't make it. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian was the title.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay.
And they were actually, it was picking up steam, and then it got railroaded by Batman Returns. So, Keaton was on board, Winona Ryder was on board, and then they got caught up in making Batman Returns, and it kind of fell by the wayside, and it never got picked up again.
And they talked about even doing it, in like 2015, they were still talking about it, and how interesting it would be to see like Lydia grown up, and like what would the circumstances be then, but I think it's fine. Not everything needs to be a franchise.
No, correct. I agree. Yes, I agree. Did you see that Burton originally wanted Sammy Davis Jr. to play Beetlejuice?
Would have been a different type of
Very
character.
different movie. Keaton just kills this. Like, he owns this character.
I know, when he's in the TV and he's doing his advertisement, he's like, I got demons all up in me.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice started out as the assistant of Juno, correct? That's what she says, that he was my assistant. You don't want his help. He was my assistant who went into business for himself. She doesn't really get into more detail.
Exorcist.
Right.
But you can sense that he was trouble, even for her. So, and that's why he went off. There's not really a backstory of what maybe happened between the two. But he is really bad news for anybody that conjures him up. And he tries to get Lydia on a number of occasions to say his name 3 times. And then finally, he makes her promise to marry him in order to save the Maitlands, who are her family's trying to exorcise them or what have you, and actually pulls them up into physical beings, and then they start to age
Wither away.
And wither away. And she has no more choice. She agrees to marry Beetlejuice, calls his name, and then the tour de force at the end when he comes in.
Oh, how I love that man of mine.
I love that scene when Otho says he's going to exorcise them, and Lydia's like, no. And then she goes, wait, what am I saying? You can't even change a tire.
Right.
And of course he can't, because he messes it up.
Yeah, because you can't stop it once it starts.
Yeah.
Charles is like, Otho, stop it now. Enough.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't. This is a fun movie. This is bucket proof.
Yeah, it ends on a really upbeat note again with the Perry Belafonte music to keep you out, and it's suspended in midair. Lydia singing along. I could just see people calypso dancing out of the theater in 1988.
It is fun. Did you? The studio originally wanted to call this House Ghost. And so Burton fought back, and he suggested Scared Sheetless.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually liked it. And he was like, oh, no. I thought Scared Sheetless is genius. I love it.
That'll teach you to make suggestions to
Right?
movie executives.
Oh, yeah, he was horrified. They're like, no, I was kidding.
And I forgot about the F-bomb that Beetlejuice drops
Do you
midway
know
through.
do you know that wasn't supposed to happen? He kicked the model and it fell over, and he made that gesture to the prop department. And Burton loved it so much he kept it in the movie.
I'm just surprised it got through, because it's normally
it's like,
not
you
allowed.
get the one F-bomb in the end. I'm a model. Honk, honk.
Is it a PG-13? Is that why it's
I think it
PG-13?
is.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
I
Yeah, you're
think
probably good for like one F-bomb.
Did you read the litany of other actresses that auditioned for Lydia? I've got a long list: Sarah Jessica Parker, Brooke Shields, Diane Lane, Justine Bateman, Molly Ringwald, Juliette Lewis, Jennifer Connelly, all auditioned. And the runner-up behind Winona Ryder was Alyssa Milano.
Beetlejuice is rated PG.
Wow. How did they sneak that through?
I don't know.
I could maybe whoever was from the ratings board. Oh, it's funny. Let's let it through.
Right.
It's so funny that it is just the one moment, but I'm surprised it got through on a PG movie, especially considering what a hard time the ratings board gives to directors of R-rated movies who make horror movies. They
Right.
give them this incredibly hard time about the
Yeah.
content of a movie that's meant to be gory, and then they let this F-bomb go through on a PG movie. So
I mean, you go back and rewatch Back to the Future, which is also PG, and there's a fair amount of swearing in there.
There's a lot of
There's
swearing.
no F-bombs, but still, yeah.
They make up for it, and with other vocabulary.
It is one of the
there.
bigger laughs in this movie, though.
Dudley Moore and Sam Kinison were also
Sam
considered.
Kinison, I did say, yeah. Interesting. He was at his height. Right
I don't think I would have enjoyed this movie if Sam Kinison was. I'm
He would have
sorry.
just been screaming the whole time.
Yeah, filmed in Vermont, not Connecticut.
there's not that many exteriors, though. I mean, a lot of it takes place inside the house.
Right.
Where there are exteriors, it's Vermont.
I do like the opening shot of the town, and then it goes into the model, and then you get the spider crawling up over the model.
Mhm.
You're
Right.
like, what am I watching here? So, do they still make Zagnuts, by the way? I think
I
that
don't
kind
know.
of dates this movie a little bit. My
You know,
brother used to
it's-
love Zagnuts.
That's the kind of thing you would expect him to like. Zagnuts. It's just funny.
Exactly.
The name itself is funny.
Yes, correct.
I read this book a few years ago called Candy Freak, which is about like the production of all these kind of regional obscure candies that get made in these little factories, like kind of all around the country. And because of that, I discovered that a lot of candy that you don't necessarily see in the store has this huge life online. And you can get almost anything that you've ever liked. You can order online, and yes, Zagnuts are still available.
Oh, there you go.
So this was released on March 30th of 1988, and it was a huge hit. On a 15 million budget, it made about 74 million at the box office. Critics were largely in praise, unsurprising, but Janet Maslin,
I know she never likes anything.
no, tries anything and everything for effect and only occasionally manages something funny. Boo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if she ever goes back and rereads her own and be like,
Right.
oh, yeah, maybe I was wrong about that.
But Vincent Canby, another famous film critic, called it a farce of our time. And Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka said it could change the world.
Joe.
He loved it. So it won the Oscar for Best Makeup as well.
His Michael Keaton's makeup design is like kind of just gross enough. He looks like he has moss growing on his face.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
he was left to design it himself. He came up with the whole look of this character.
For the makeup, you mean?
Everything, the wardrobe, the whole like.
I don't believe the wardrobe
He went to
because
Burton and with his he worked with the makeup department to come up with.
I don't believe the wardrobe only because he wears that striped suit, and those stripes are in every freaking Tim Burton movie. Tim Burton loves black
That
and
is
white
true.
stripes.
That is true. But he only wears it at the very end there. Yeah.
But that's the iconic costume.
Yeah.
Not his kind of garbage man costume that he's wearing when they first get him out of the grave.
Right.
Which by the way is just a jerky thing to do because he has been hanging around the
You see him
graveyard.
outside the grave previous to this to make them actually dig him up
Dig him up. Yeah.
through model material, no less.
That's a good effect.
And, of course, Beetlejuice is eaten by the sandworm at the end. But because test audiences reacted so positively to the character, they tagged on that scene where he's in the waiting room just to leave it open, just in case. But as we said,
there goes Elvis.
never happened. Sequel never happened. As we were saying before, it's most likely a good thing.
Yeah, it would have watered it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this, Jeff, is this a secret 5-bucket episode?
It is not so secret. It is a 5-bucket.
Wow. All right. Sound the fanfare. Beetlejuice has entered the 5-bucket club. It is on the 5-bucket list.
It has to be. How can you not? I said it was bucket proof.
And it is.
Fun from beginning to end. Too bad
Yes.
you had to sit through Dune to get there.
So what are we doing next week?
What
We're
are we doing
watching
next week?
Last Night in Soho.
Last Night in Soho from
Edgar
director
Wright, right?
director Edgar Wright, who is famous for Shaun of the Dead and
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. That's what I was
World's
trying to think
End.
of. World's End.
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver, and he was famously attached to Ant-Man before he was
Yeah.
summarily let go by Marvel. What a movie that would have been, huh?
I
If
know.
he'd done Ant-Man.
Why bring these guys in for their unique vision and be like, yeah, that's not what we want.
But I've been waiting for this for a long time, since I first heard of Last Night in Soho. And one of us has already seen it. As of right now, one of us has already seen it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, this is the last film of the great Diana Rigg.
So it was filmed that long ago.
Yes, it was filmed that long ago because she died last year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
This was the last film she made, and she died about a month after it finished filming.
Okay.
And then we're pairing this with, because my logic was a rhyming logic. We're pairing this with Little Shop of Horrors. So Soho and Skid Row.
So this is the 1986 Frank Oz Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes.
Rather than the Roger Corman, Jack Nicholson starring Little Shop of Horrors. It has been so long since I've seen this, so I'm looking forward to another watch.
I love Little Shop of Horrors.
It's been a while since I've seen it. Did see it in the theater though, an advanced screening I saw.
Wow. All right.
Cool.
So looks like it's going to be a good episode next week. Don't miss it. Whatever you do.
Soho. It's a time travel thing, right?
Don't say anything.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Jim doesn't want spoilers.
No.
Anna Joy Taylor. What's her name?
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Mm-hmm.
ATJ. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we'll watch it and we'll let you know what we think next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
All right. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you. I got demons all up in me.
Yeah, there goes Elvis.